say first that I'm having some voice issues, so if I just stop at some point and start doing an interpretive dance instead of speaking, that's what's going on. I'm super happy to be here. I love coming to Bend, first and foremost. I'm from Portland, so I love coming down here and climbing mountains and swimming in lakes. And thanks to the Bend Design organization for inviting me and being such gracious hosts. Appreciate that. Because I believe that context is very important, there are a few things that you should know about me and about Second Story before I start getting into virtual museums. Me. I'm a designer. I've been working in creative services for 18 years. I got into this business because I thought it could support my real dream of becoming a full-time, very well-paid drummer. That is still in the works, I guess. It's also worth noting that I went to art school for exactly 6 months before the school was shut down for embezzling student loan money. So apparently design education wasn't for me. So I got a job at a small design studio who was willing and able to invest time in me, and that's sort of how I got my start in design. Since then, can everybody see that okay? Is it large enough? Also, I like to mess with people with type, in case you can't tell. Focus of my career has been on visual communication and aesthetics. I let go of rock stardom and all of my drumming dreams once I realized that I could create and communicate with emotions through visual design. So I was okay with that switch once I realized I could still express myself and get paid for it as well. Drumming, not so much. So I am a maker. I love to create. I love to learn. My career path has afforded me opportunity to engage in many design disciplines: graphic, motion, environmental, interface, interaction, and experience. I actually love when new software comes out. I love learning new tools. Aside from the craft of design, I'm also very passionate about design's ability to connect people. Connecting people to stories and places, and most importantly, each other. I believe in our ability as designers to facilitate empathy between people with different backgrounds and different perspectives. And that's what led me to Second Story, where I'm currently the design director. I've been with Second Story for 6 years. I oversee the practice of design across our 3 studios. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of information about Second Story and what we do there. We're a design studio. We're a multidisciplinary design studio. We've heard that a few times today, which is really exciting to see. We employ a wide range of designers: graphic, interface, experience, physical, in addition to technologists, a wide range of technologists, creative coders, web programmers, kind of anything you can imagine, prototypers, and content creators. We create our own content very often, and of course we have producers as well holding us all together. So we use design, and we use technology, and we use content, stories, to connect people. So you can see how it's a good fit for me. We're storytellers, first and foremost, but we are also makers. We are not happy with just generating ideas. We're passionate about seeing those ideas through to a product, to an exhibit, to an experience. And, I mentioned learning earlier. We're passionate about learning. We're a group of people who can never get enough learning. We purposely avoid making the same experience because we are I guess we're gluttons for punishment. That's one way of looking at it, or it's just that we're excited by new things, new ideas, different ways of telling stories, different ways of making them come to life. We collaborate with museums, with cultural and educational institutions, and even with some brands. And the output of our work is varied. Sometimes it's web and mobile, like this mobile application for the Whitney Museum in New York. Sometimes it's touchscreen interactives of all different shapes and sizes. This is an installation at the National Center for Civil and Human Rights in Atlanta, Georgia. We also design responsive environments and holistic exhibit design. We're looking at the Learning to See exhibit at the Denver Botanic Gardens in Denver, Colorado. What's important about this exhibit is that all of the interfaces in this space, all of the light changes color with the local weather. So when it's warm, the interfaces are warm. When it's cold, the interfaces are cold. And sometimes we find ourselves working on very large-scale media installations. That is a 10-story, block-and-a-half-long screen in Times Square. We worked with a real estate developer, Vornado, to bring to life this new screen, which is at the time, the largest 10K display in the world. I don't know if you can see it from out there, but there's the snowman from Frozen, kind of at the bottom there. It's funny, you know, my kids see this and they're like, that legitimizes me to them. Even though I did the stuff in the background, like they're super excited. My dad worked on something that was behind the Frozen snowman. Sad but true. So, getting into the virtual museum space. We have, at Second Story, we've created many interactive experiences for museums that, what I like to call break the glass. So, I'm sure we've all been in museums where there's glass around an artifact or collections. Second Story, very well known through the late 90s, early 2000s for building experiences in museums that allowed people to go deeper into artifacts than what you can do with glass, or that you can do from behind glass. We've worked with museums to expand their art collections that allow visitors to inspect historical artifacts, read more stories about the collections and artifacts. This image and the previous one are from the Arctic Studies Center in Anchorage, Alaska. Using a large touchscreen, users can inspect artifacts that are behind the cases. They can blow them up very large and inspect all of the little details of that artifact, front and back, underneath. All of these perspectives that you wouldn't get by just looking at the artifact in a case. And in addition to that, of course, all sorts of deep, rich context. We've also created experiences that extend collections and artifacts beyond the museum, giving more people greater access. And while this example, which is from the Department of Nike Archives, it's not public-facing, so not everyone gets to look at this, but all of Nike gets access to their digital archives, which is a pretty huge feat. The archive of physical objects really exists. It's within a 200-mile radius of here, and it's not something the general public can see. This was really fun to get to see all of their artifacts. So, greater access is becoming an expected part of the museum experience, the virtual museum, as we call it. And 3 of our recent projects that I'm going to share with you have used this greater access to create stronger connections between people, collections, stories, and each other. So the first one I'm going to talk about is MoMA Object Photo. It's a virtual gallery for the Thomas Walther's collection, which is 341 photographs representing a modern vision taken in the early 20th century. But it is more than just a gallery. And I have a video. I have 3 videos, so if you're thinking about leaving, 3 videos. Okay.
Each individual object, each individual photograph tells its own story. The Thomas Walter collection is a group of 341 photographs from the 1910s, 20s, and 30s that together catalog the formation of photographic modernism. The entry point to the site as a whole is a suite of 4 visualizations. So the ability to have this incredible access to the photographs and the amount of information on each photograph, but also see how that photograph connected throughout the site. In Second Story, we found the people who could have that kind of conversation with us, a conversation about how information could come together, intersect, and tell a story through the web as a platform. And how to think about, with a fresh lens, a moment in the history of art and of photography that seems often well-tread, but still has so much left to discover.
So as described in the video, Object Photo is a tool for visualizing data that's been collected by photographic researchers at MoMA. So this is, we talked with MoMA about creating stories that connected these objects, but they were much more interested in us creating a tool for them to use to uncover new connections that they weren't able to make with their existing tools. In addition, it's something that was made public. So anyone can go to this site and find connections between artists, their subjects, photographic techniques, and gallery showings. And it should be noted that this was developed in conjunction with a printed book by MoMA, being published by MoMA at the same time. As I said, it's a public-facing website. Anybody here can go to it. You can check out all of the photographs. It is a deep dive to get into this site. It goes into paper type, technique of photography, the types of watermarks that are on the back of the photographs. You can get very, very deep into this content. But you should also realize, as you're looking at it, it is primarily geared towards photographic researchers. It's just another view, one of the visualizations that shows connections between artists, places, photographic type. So, as you can imagine, there are inherent challenges in creating a tool like this. I'm not a photographic expert, or I should say a historical photographic expert. No one on our team is. So we spend a lot of time with researchers. So whether it's for a project like this, or whether we're doing a science museum, whatever it is, we have to dive into our subjects. And we go along with the researchers. They challenge us, we challenge them. It's a constant back and forth. We're always looking out for the end user, the audience. We have a lot of experience in making interactive and web experiences, but it's a process. It's a back and forth iteration all the way through to the end. So you can take a look at this website, at this address. You can also go to secondstory.com, and you can find a link to the website there. So the next one that I want to talk about, making connections between design and designers. In 2013, the AIGA, the Professional Organization for Design, celebrated its 100-year anniversary. And we were asked by the AIGA to create an interactive experience, a web-based interactive experience around the most influential design works of the past century. I'll let you all just look around for a little bit because it's fascinating. The DeWan poster, I Want You for the US Army. Our challenge was, how could we make a strong connection between design works, such as this, from the past, and today's design community? So we created an experience around the intention of those designers, those very famous designers who created these works. And I'll talk a little bit more about the intentions in a minute. Another key part of this experience was that we gathered and produced original audio clips, quotes, video interviews to awaken the design works, giving them context, make them more relevant for today. We got to, well, I shouldn't say we. I didn't get to fly around, but our AV producer got to fly around the country and interview these design masters for a couple of weeks. So I'm going to share with you a video. Oh, I see. Okay. This is another video, second of 3, that just will give a little bit more context to what I'm speaking about. It was a teaser video that we created for an AIGA event launching the site. I love that part of the track. Such a happy ending. So at the start of really any design project, every designer has an intention that they wish to fulfill with their design, whether it's expressed or whether it's not. It could be to delight, it could be to inform or assist, it could be to get paid. I'll admit up here that I've done work with the primary intention of getting paid. That's happened in my career for sure. Exploring this collection of influential design works to these 5 intentions creates empathy between today's designers and these influential designers and their design works. In addition, we also created a community. The site invites the design community to engage in a conversation about what design means to them. As we were collecting all of these submissions after the site launched, my favorite, and I don't have a visual of it here, but the best submission I saw was celebrating 100 years of design that doesn't suck like this website. Can't please everyone, right? I loved that. And you can visit the website at celebratedesign.org. So the last piece I'm going to talk about is about the High Museum of Art in Atlanta, Georgia, connecting art and the people. So a few years ago, we at Second Story developed ArtClicks. ArtClicks is a mobile phone app that is intended to be used inside of the museum. So this is a pretty unusual thing, or at least it was at the time, to allow photographing of artworks within a museum setting. The app used object recognition software to identify an artwork that someone was looking at, and then served up content So additional content that was not on the museum placard. This was special content about the artwork and about the artist. The app also allowed people to add their voice to a community so they could comment on specific works of art. There was a problem, though. As it turns out, the people who comment on artwork most often, it seems they have art history degrees. Basically, the comments were essentially like professional level art critiques. And so it left most of the museum goers, which were a lot of school groups and just regular people, they were inhibited when they saw those really long, very well-educated comments. So we had an idea. Imagine how fun it was coming up with the emojis. Imagine how many emojis we came up with that the museum rejected. There was, at one time, a steaming pile of something. We went all over the place. And in the end, we decided on some basic human emotions. And we decided on some things that really don't make any sense if you just look at them. There's a little miniature dolly, which is one of my favorites. What do you do with that? I'm not really sure. But people are using them, and that's what's really important. Because now we can engage an audience without an art history degree, and we can get them to very quickly think about how they're feeling about art and put it into the community. So, a quick note, this structure that you see right here and that you saw in that video is a custom structure that we created just as part of a launch for this latest version of the app. So it was just something we put in the museum to say, hey, we have a new app, and this is what it does. And I absolutely love to see thoughtful comments next to a few bells and a meh, some sunglasses, a diamond. It's kind of hard to tell what people are really thinking, but the point is that they responded. They had a very quick way of responding that felt like it was something that they could do. We took down a barrier of fear there. And yeah, I believe very strongly in the power of design to connect people, to create empathy and understanding, and ultimately to create a better world. Thank you.